The Drugs Import and Export Rules, 1976. Introduction and Details. The Drugs Import and Export Rules, 1976, govern the import and export of drugs in Pakistan, ensuring that all pharmaceutical products meet safety and efficacy standards. Here are the key points regarding these rules and their relation to the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan (DRAP). Objective: the rules aim to regulate the import and export of drugs to protect public health and ensure that only quality medicines are available in the market. Definition of drugs. The rules define what constitutes a drug, including prescription medications, over-the-counter products, and any substances used for medical treatment. Import licenses. Any entity wishing to import drugs must obtain an import license from DRAP. This involves submitting an application that includes details about the drugs, manufacturing processes, and compliance with safety regulations. Export licenses. Similar to import regulations, exporters must secure an export license. The application process includes documentation that ensures the drugs comply with the importing country's regulations. Quality control. The rules require that all imported and exported drugs meet specified quality standards. This includes adherence to good manufacturing practices (GMP) and relevant pharmacopoeia standards. Documentation. Comprehensive documentation is essential for both importing and exporting drugs. Required documents may include invoices, packing lists, certificates of analysis, and import-export permits. Inspection. DRAP has the authority to inspect facilities involved in the import and export processes. This ensures compliance with the established rules and standards. Prohibited substances. The rules outline substances that are prohibited from being imported or exported, including counterfeit drugs and those not approved for use in Pakistan. Penalties for non-compliance. Violations of the import and export rules can result in penalties, including fines, suspension of licenses, and legal action. Regulatory amendments. The rules can be amended as necessary to respond to changes in public health needs, international standards, and advancements in pharmaceutical technology. Coordination with other authorities. DRAP works in conjunction with customs and other regulatory bodies to ensure effective enforcement of the import and export rules. Appeals process. Entities aggrieved by decisions related to import or export licenses can appeal to the appropriate authorities, including the appellate board. Public health considerations. The overarching aim of the rules is to safeguard public health by ensuring that all drugs imported and exported are safe, effective, and of high quality. The Drugs Import and Export Rules, 1976, play a crucial role in regulating the pharmaceutical landscape in Pakistan, and DRAP is responsible for their implementation and enforcement, ensuring compliance with national and international standards. MCQs portion. We are providing you 200 multiple-choice questions (MCQs) on the Drugs Import and Export Rules, 1976, with reference to the draft, along with the correct answers. 1. What is the primary purpose of the Drugs Import and Export Rules, 1976? Answer. To regulate the import and export of drugs in Pakistan. 2. Who is responsible for enforcing the Drugs Import and Export Rules in Pakistan? Answer. The Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan (DRAP). 3. What must be obtained to import drugs into Pakistan? Answer. An import license. 4. What documentation is required for exporting drugs? Answer. An export license. 5. Which standards must imported drugs meet? Answer. Quality and safety standards. 6. What is defined as a drug under these rules? Answer. Any substance used for medical treatment. 7. What is the significance of Good Manufacturing Practices (GMP) in drug import? Answer. Ensures the quality of drugs being imported. 8. Which authority can inspect facilities involved in drug import and export? Answer. DRAP. 9. Are there any substances prohibited from being imported? Answer. Yes, counterfeit drugs are prohibited. 10. What happens if there is a violation of the import-export rules? Answer. Penalties may be imposed. 11. Can DRAP amend the import-export rules? Answer. Yes, as necessary. 12. What is required to apply for an import license? Answer. A detailed application including drug information. 13. What is the role of customs in the import-export process? Answer. To enforce regulations and check compliance. 14. How often must licenses be renewed? Answer. As per the guidelines set by DRAP. 15. What must be included in the documentation for drug exports? Answer. Certificates of analysis. 16. Is there a process for appealing a denied import-export license? Answer. Yes, an appeal can be made to DRAP. 17. What is a key focus of the Drugs Import and Export Rules? Answer. Public health protection. 18. Are all drugs eligible for export? Answer. No, only those meeting specific criteria. 19. How does DRAP assess compliance with the import-export rules? Answer. Through inspections and reviews. 20. What is the consequence of importing unregistered drugs? Answer. Legal action and penalties. 21. Are there special provisions for emergency drug imports? Answer. Yes, expedited processes may apply. 22. What type of entities can apply for import licenses? Answer. Pharmaceutical manufacturers and distributors. 23. Can the rules be changed based on international standards? Answer. Yes, they can be amended accordingly. 24. What is the importance of maintaining drug quality during export? Answer. To meet the importing country's regulations. 25. What kind of penalties can be imposed for non-compliance? Answer: fines and license suspension. 26. Is it necessary to provide a packing list for drug exports? Answer: yes, it is required documentation. 27. Who must approve the import license application? Answer: DRAP. 28. Can individuals apply for drug import licenses? Answer: no, only registered entities can apply. 29. What is the significance of the certificate of analysis? Answer: it verifies the quality of the drug. 30. Are drugs that are not approved for use in Pakistan allowed to be imported? Answer: no, they are prohibited. 31. What should a company do if it wants to export a new drug? Answer: apply for an export license through DRAP. 32. How does DRAP ensure public safety in drug import-export? Answer: by enforcing compliance with the rules. 33. Can the import-export rules affect drug pricing? Answer: yes, regulatory compliance can impact pricing. 34. What is the role of the pharmacopoeia in the import process? Answer: to set quality standards for drugs. 35. How does DRAP handle counterfeit drugs found during inspections? Answer: they are seized and legal action is taken. 36. What type of drugs require special import permits? Answer: controlled substances. 37. Is prior approval needed for importing herbal medicines? Answer: yes, they must comply with the rules. 38. What must be done if an import license is lost? Answer: a request for a duplicate must be made to DRAP. 39. How are disputes regarding drug imports resolved? Answer: through the established appeal process. 40. What information must be provided in the application for an export license? Answer: details about the drug and compliance documentation. 41. Can companies export drugs for clinical trials? Answer: yes, with appropriate licensing. 42. What role do international agreements play in these rules? Answer: they help align local regulations with global standards. 43. How frequently does DRAP review the import-export rules? Answer: periodically, based on needs. 44. Can penalties for non-compliance vary? Answer: yes, based on the severity of the violation. 45. What documentation proves the compliance of imported drugs? Answer: import permits and certificates of analysis. 46. Are there restrictions on the quantity of drugs that can be imported? Answer: yes, based on regulations and license terms. 47. What is the consequence of failing to renew an import license? Answer: the license becomes invalid. 48. How does DRAP assist companies in the import-export process? Answer: by providing guidelines and support. 49. Can the public access information about imported and exported drugs? Answer: yes, some information is publicly available. 50. What is a key factor in the decision-making process for import licenses? Answer: the safety and efficacy of the drug. 51. Are there specific guidelines for importing vaccines? Answer: yes, they must meet stringent regulatory standards. 52. How does DRAP address emerging health threats through these rules? Answer: by allowing expedited processes for necessary drugs. 53. Can drugs be imported without an import license in emergencies? Answer: no, licenses are still required. 54. What role does public health play in the enforcement of these rules? Answer: it is the primary focus of regulatory actions. 55. Are drugs that are banned in Pakistan allowed for export? Answer: no, they are prohibited from being exported. 56. What types of records must companies maintain for drug imports? Answer: detailed records of all transactions and compliance. 57. How does DRAP verify the legitimacy of an import-export license? Answer: through documentation review and inspections. 58. Can changes in drug formulations affect import-export eligibility? Answer: yes, they may require re-evaluation. 59. Are there guidelines for labeling imported drugs? Answer: yes, they must comply with local regulations. 60. What is the process for reporting adverse effects of imported drugs? Answer: companies must notify DRAP as per guidelines. 61. How does the DRAP ensure the authenticity of exported drugs? Answer: by requiring thorough documentation and certifications. 62. Can companies appeal if their export license is denied? Answer: yes, they can file an appeal. 63. What is required for the re-export of returned drugs? Answer: compliance with original export regulations. 64. Is prior approval needed for importing over-the-counter medications? Answer: yes, they must meet the criteria. 65. What happens if a company imports a drug without a proper license? Answer: the drug will be confiscated, and penalties may apply. 66. Are there specific rules for importing controlled substances? Answer: yes, they require special permits. 67. How does DRAP address public concerns about drug safety? Answer: by enforcing strict compliance with import-export rules. 68. What kind of drugs require additional documentation during export? Answer: biological products. 69. Can companies import drugs for personal use? Answer: no, import licenses are required for commercial purposes. 70. What is the procedure for importing generic drugs? Answer: they must be registered and comply with quality standards. 71. How often must facilities be inspected for compliance? Answer: regularly, as determined by DRAP. 72. Can companies export expired drugs? Answer: no, it is prohibited. 73. What must a company do if it wants to change its import license details? Answer: submit a request to DRAP for updates. 74. How does DRAP facilitate the import of essential medicines? Answer: by streamlining the licensing process. 75. Are there specific penalties for exporting counterfeit drugs? Answer: yes, legal action can be taken against offenders. 76. How does DRAP ensure the traceability of imported drugs? Answer: through detailed documentation requirements. 77. Can a single import license cover multiple drugs? Answer: yes, if specified in the application. 78. What happens to drugs that fail quality testing upon import? Answer: they are rejected and returned or destroyed. 79. How does DRAP handle appeals related to the import-export rules? Answer: through a formal process as outlined in regulations. 80. Are there different procedures for importing human and veterinary drugs? Answer: yes, they have specific regulatory requirements. 81. How does the import-export process affect drug availability? Answer: it can impact the supply chain and market access. 82. What role do pharmaceutical companies play in reporting adverse effects? Answer: they are responsible for notifying DRAP. 83. Can a drug be imported without a license for research purposes? Answer: no, all drugs require a license. 84. What happens if a drug is found to be substandard after import? Answer: it is subject to recall and penalties. 85. How does DRAP ensure compliance with international standards? Answer: by aligning local rules with global regulations. 86. Are there guidelines for importing dietary supplements? Answer: yes, they must meet specific criteria. 87. What documentation is necessary for the import of medical devices? Answer: import permits and compliance certificates. 88. How can a company ensure its export documentation is complete? Answer: by following DRAP's guidelines carefully. 89. What is required for a company to obtain an import license for narcotics? Answer: special permits and strict compliance with regulations. 90. Can changes in ownership affect an existing import license? Answer: yes, it must be updated with DRAP. 91. Are all drug imports subject to customs inspection? Answer: yes, they must comply with customs regulations. 92. What is the role of risk assessment in the import-export process? Answer: to evaluate the safety and efficacy of drugs. 93. How does DRAP address counterfeit medicines in the market? Answer: through strict enforcement of import-export regulations. 94. Can drugs imported for humanitarian aid bypass regular regulations? Answer: no, they must still comply with import rules. 95. What is the requirement for importing traditional medicines? Answer: they must meet safety and efficacy standards. 96. How does the appeal process work for denied export licenses? Answer: companies can submit a formal appeal to DRAP. 97. What happens to drugs that are not registered in Pakistan upon import? Answer: they are rejected and cannot be sold. 98. Can the import-export rules change based on new health threats? Answer: yes, they can be amended accordingly. 99. What role does scientific evidence play in the approval process? Answer: it is crucial for establishing safety and efficacy. 100. Are there provisions for expedited drug imports in emergencies? Answer: yes, specific procedures exist for urgent needs. 101. How does DRAP handle the import of drugs from non-compliant manufacturers? Answer: they are prohibited from importing such drugs. 102. What kind of training is required for staff handling drug imports? Answer: knowledge of regulations and compliance procedures. 103. Are there penalties for failing to report adverse drug reactions? Answer: yes, companies can face legal consequences. 104. Can companies import drugs from any country? Answer: no, only from approved manufacturers. 105. What happens if a drug is found to have quality issues post-import? Answer: it may be recalled and the company penalized. 106. How does DRAP prioritize the review of import-export applications? Answer: based on public health needs and urgency. 107. Are there specific requirements for importing blood products? Answer: yes, they have stringent safety standards. 108. What must be done if an exported drug does not meet the receiving country's regulations? Answer: the drug may be returned or destroyed. 109. Can companies import experimental drugs for clinical trials? Answer: yes, with proper approvals and licensing. 110. How does DRAP communicate changes in regulations to stakeholders? Answer: through official notifications and publications. 111. Are there limits on the types of drugs that can be imported? Answer: yes, based on regulatory guidelines. 112. What is the consequence of mislabeling imported drugs? Answer: legal penalties and possible rejection. 113. Can DRAP impose additional requirements for certain drugs? Answer: yes, based on risk assessment. 114. How does DRAP address non-compliance by importers? Answer: through inspections and enforcement actions. 115. What is the significance of import-export audits? Answer: to ensure ongoing compliance with the rules. 116. Are there guidelines for importing vaccines? Answer: yes, they must meet specific health standards. 117. What should a company do if its export license is expired? Answer. Apply for renewal before exporting again. 118. Can entities without a physical presence in Pakistan apply for import licenses? Answer. No, they must be registered in Pakistan. 119. What is the role of third-party testing in the import process? Answer. To verify the quality of imported drugs. 120. How often should companies review their import-export practices? Answer. Regularly, to ensure compliance with current regulations. 121. What documentation is needed for the import of controlled substances? Answer. Special permits and compliance evidence. 122. Can companies import drugs for commercial resale without a license? Answer. No, a valid import license is mandatory. 123. How does DRAP handle appeals regarding penalties imposed for non-compliance? Answer. Through a formal review process. 124. Are there different rules for importing generic versus branded drugs? Answer. The basic requirements are similar but may vary in registration. 125. What is required for the re-export of drugs returned to the sender? Answer. Compliance with original export regulations. 126. How does the import-export process affect drug safety? Answer. It ensures that only safe and effective drugs reach the market. 127. Are there guidelines for the import of cosmetics under these rules? Answer. No, they are covered by separate regulations. 128. What must be included in the application for a drug import license? Answer. Comprehensive details about the drug. 129. Can companies import drugs that are still under clinical trials? Answer. No, unless they have specific permissions. 130. How does DRAP ensure that drugs meet the required standards upon import? Answer. Through rigorous inspection and documentation requirements. 131. Are there any specific rules for importing herbal medicines? Answer. Yes, they must meet certain health standards. 132. What is the procedure for reporting discrepancies in imported drug quality? Answer. Notify DRAP immediately for investigation. 133. How does DRAP monitor the market for counterfeit drugs? Answer. Through inspections and public reports. 134. What is required for exporting drugs to countries with strict regulations? Answer. Compliance with both local and international standards. 135. Are there guidelines for the import of diagnostic kits? Answer. Yes, they must meet safety and efficacy standards. 136. Can a company apply for multiple import licenses? Answer. Yes, each license must be for different drugs or categories. 137. What documentation is necessary for the import of biological products? Answer: compliance certificates and safety data. 138. How does DRAP facilitate the import of essential medicines during crises? Answer: by expediting the licensing process. 139. What happens if a drug is found to be substandard during a routine check? Answer: it may be recalled, and penalties may apply. 140. Are there specific rules for the import of psychotropic substances? Answer: yes, they require special permits. 141. How can companies ensure their import documentation is correct? Answer: by following DRAP's guidelines thoroughly. 142. What role does public consultation play in the amendment of import-export rules? Answer: it allows stakeholders to provide input. 143. Can a company export drugs that are not registered in Pakistan? Answer: no, they must be registered to be exported. 144. How does DRAP address the issue of expired drugs during inspections? Answer: they are disposed of according to regulations. 145. Are there specific guidelines for the import of radiopharmaceuticals? Answer: yes, they must comply with safety standards. 146. What is the significance of drug traceability in the import process? Answer: to ensure safety and compliance with regulations. 147. Can companies import drugs for personal use without a license? Answer: no, all imports require a license. 148. What documentation is needed for the import of veterinary drugs? Answer: import permits and compliance evidence. 149. How does DRAP handle the import of drugs from countries with no established regulations? Answer: they assess and apply local standards. 150. What happens to a company that repeatedly violates import-export rules? Answer: they may face revocation of licenses. 151. Can drugs imported for humanitarian aid bypass regular inspections? Answer: no, they must still comply with all regulations. 152. How does DRAP ensure transparency in the import-export process? Answer: by maintaining public records and documentation. 153. What is required for the import of nutritional supplements? Answer: compliance with health regulations. 154. Are there any exemptions for certain drugs in the import-export rules? Answer: yes, but they are limited and specific. 155. How does DRAP address public health emergencies through these rules? Answer: by allowing expedited import processes. 156. Can companies appeal if their import-export license application is rejected? Answer: yes, an appeal can be filed with DRAP. 157. What is the role of third-party certification in the import-export process? Answer: to verify compliance with quality standards. 158. Can a drug be imported without proper labeling? Answer: no, proper labeling is mandatory. 159. How does DRAP assess the risks associated with imported drugs? Answer: through risk management evaluations. 160. Are there different import-export requirements for bulk drugs versus finished products? Answer: yes, the requirements may vary. 161. What is required for the import of medical devices? Answer: specific permits and compliance documentation. 162. Can DRAP impose additional monitoring for high-risk drugs? Answer: yes, they can require enhanced scrutiny. 163. How does DRAP communicate regulatory updates to stakeholders? Answer: through official publications and notifications. 164. What must companies do if they want to change the formulation of an imported drug? Answer: notify DRAP and possibly reapply for licensing. 165. Are there any rules regarding the import of complementary medicines? Answer: yes, they must comply with health standards. 166. How does DRAP ensure that exported drugs meet the destination country's requirements? Answer: by requiring thorough documentation. 167. Can a company export drugs that have been recalled? Answer: no, it is strictly prohibited. 168. What role do health authorities play in the drug import process? Answer: they provide input and oversight to ensure compliance. 169. Are there penalties for failing to maintain import-export records? Answer: yes, companies can face legal consequences. 170. How does DRAP handle conflicts between local and international regulations? Answer: they strive to align local rules with global standards. 171. What is required for the import of cancer treatment drugs? Answer: compliance with safety and efficacy standards. 172. Can companies import drugs for research without proper licensing? Answer: no, all imports must comply with licensing regulations. 173. How does DRAP ensure compliance with import-export rules? Answer: through regular inspections and audits. 174. Are there guidelines for the import of orphan drugs? Answer: yes, they must meet specific criteria. 175. What happens if an importer fails to provide required documentation? Answer: the import may be rejected. 176. Can a drug be imported for use in clinical trials without prior approval? Answer: no, it requires proper licensing. 177. How does DRAP prioritize the review of applications for essential medicines? Answer: based on public health needs and urgency. 178. What documentation is necessary for the import of controlled drugs? Answer: Special permits and compliance certificates. 179. Can companies export drugs that do not comply with local regulations? Answer: no, compliance is mandatory for exports. 180. What is required for the re-import of returned drugs? Answer: compliance with original import regulations. 181. How does DRAP ensure that drugs imported are safe for consumption? Answer: through stringent quality control measures. 182. Are there any restrictions on the import of cosmetic drugs? Answer: yes, they are regulated separately. 183. What must companies do if they suspect counterfeit drugs in the market? Answer: report it to DRAP immediately. 184. Can a company apply for a single import license for multiple products? Answer: yes, if specified in the application. 185. How does DRAP handle the import of drugs with known safety issues? Answer: they may impose additional restrictions or monitoring. 186. What documentation is required for the export of narcotics? Answer: special permits and compliance documentation. 187. Can companies import drugs for personal use without a license? Answer: no, all drug imports require licensing. 188. How often must companies update their import-export practices? Answer: regularly, to comply with changing regulations. 189. Are there penalties for not adhering to drug labeling requirements? Answer: yes, legal penalties can apply. 190. What is required for the import of emergency medications? Answer: compliance with expedited licensing processes. 191. Can a company export drugs that are not approved in Pakistan? Answer: no, they must be registered. 192. How does DRAP address issues of drug accessibility through these rules? Answer: by facilitating the import of essential medicines. 193. What happens if a drug fails quality checks during import? Answer: it is rejected and cannot be distributed. 194. Are there specific rules for importing biological drugs? Answer: yes, they have stringent regulations. 195. Can a company lose its import-export license for repeated violations? Answer: yes, this is a possible consequence. 196. What must be included in the application for an export license? Answer: comprehensive details about the drug and compliance documents. 197. How does DRAP monitor compliance with import-export rules? Answer: through regular audits and inspections. 198. Are there guidelines for importing non-prescription medications? Answer: yes, they must comply with local regulations. 199. What documentation is needed for the import of herbal products? Answer: compliance evidence and safety data. 200. Can a company appeal a decision regarding penalties imposed for non-compliance? Answer: yes, through a formal appeal process with DRAP. Respected pharmacists, kindly feel free to ask for any further details or specific areas you want to explore. Our message: DRAP, PPSC, FPSC, Hospital Pharmacist, Drug Inspector, DHA, MO, HAAD, SLE, CAPS, OSPAP, etc. Exam preparation, solved past paper MCQs and complete set of notes are available at this YouTube channel in video form. You can make your pharmacy exam preparation at this YouTube channel. Regards, Majid Body Advocate, PhD Scholar Pharmaceutics, 2023-2026 LLB. Vice President, Pakistan Pharmacists Association PPA Punjab, Pakistan. Contact +92321404236. Thank you.